It was a small group of campers, 3 friends who had set out for a weekend of fun and adventure. They had been planning this trip for months, eager to escape the hustle and bustle of city life and reconnect with nature. The trio consisted of Sarah, a nature enthusiast with a knack for storytelling, Mike, the adventurous spirit always seeking the next thrill, and Emily, the cautious one who often played the voice of reason. Together they made a balanced group, each bringing their unique strengths to the table. Hollow Creek was known for its scenic beauty, but it also had a darker reputation. The creek meandered through a dense forest, its waters clear and cold, reflecting the canopy of trees above. The area was a haven for wildlife, and during the day, it was a paradise for birdwatchers and nature lovers. However, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the forest took on a different character. The locals spoke in hushed tones about the eerie happenings that plagued the area after dark. Local legends warned of strange creatures that roamed the forest by night, but the friends laughed it off as superstition. They had heard the stories of the Beast of Hollow Creek, a monstrous entity said to haunt the woods, but they dismissed them as mere folklore. After all, they were seasoned campers and had faced the wilderness many times before. Little did they know this trip would be unlike any other. Their campsite was nestled by the creek, surrounded by tall, twisted trees. The location was perfect, offering both the tranquility of the flowing water and the shelter of the forest. They set up their tents, built a fire, and settled in for what they thought would be a relaxing evening. The sun cast long shadows as it set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. The smell of fresh water mixed with the earthy scent of pine needles, and for a while everything was peaceful. The friends shared stories and laughter, their voices mingling with the sounds of the forest. Birds chirped and the creek babbled softly, creating a symphony of nature that lulled them into a sense of security. But as night fell, an unsettling feeling began to creep over them. The forest, once alive with the sounds of wildlife, grew eerily silent. The temperature dropped and a thick fog began to roll in, obscuring their surroundings. The friends huddled closer to the fire, its warmth and light providing a small comfort against the encroaching darkness. The fire crackled softly, but the woods had fallen eerily silent. The usual nighttime chorus of crickets and owls was absent, replaced by an oppressive stillness. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The friends exchanged uneasy glances, each feeling the weight of the silence pressing down on them. Then came the sound, a distant growl, deep and menacing, followed by the snap of branches. It was a sound unlike anything they had ever heard, a primal noise that seemed to resonate with the very core of their being. The growl was low and guttural, sending vibrations through the ground and up their spines. It echoed through the trees, low and rumbling, sending a chill down their spines. The friends froze, their eyes wide with fear. The growl seemed to come from all directions, making it impossible to pinpoint its source. The forest, once a place of beauty and serenity, had transformed into a realm of terror. "Did you hear that?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible over the crackling fire. Her heart pounded in her chest and she could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins. The others nodded, their faces pale and eyes wide with fear. They strained their ears, listening for any further sounds. They tried to laugh it off, but the sound came again, closer this time. It was followed by the rustling of leaves and the snapping of twigs, as if something large was moving through the underbrush. The friends' laughter died in their throats, replaced by a growing sense of dread. It was followed by the sound of something large moving through the trees, its heavy footfalls shaking the ground. The noise grew louder, more insistent, as if whatever was out there was drawing closer. The friends' fear turned to panic as they realized they were not alone in the forest. Panic gripped the group as they realized they weren't alone. They huddled together, their eyes darting around the darkened forest, searching for any sign of the creature. The fire, once a source of comfort, now seemed like a beacon, drawing the beast closer. In the pale moonlight, shadows twisted and stretched across the forest floor, and the once comforting scent of pine and earth was replaced by the stench of something rotten. The air grew thick with the foul odor, making it difficult to breathe. The friends covered their noses, their eyes watering from the stench. The air felt thick, oppressive, as if the very woods were alive and watching. The friends could feel the weight of unseen eyes upon them, and the sense of being hunted grew stronger with each passing moment. The forest seemed to close in around them, the trees pressing closer, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching out to ensnare them. They packed up in a hurry, trying to leave the area, but the path back to the main road seemed to vanish. The once familiar trail was now a maze of twisted roots and gnarled branches, and no matter which direction they turned, they found themselves deeper in the forest. Panic set in as they realized they were hopelessly lost. The trees closed in around them, their branches like gnarled hands. The friends stumbled through the underbrush, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. The growling grew louder, closer, until it seemed to be right behind them. They could hear the creature's labored breathing, each exhale a low, rumbling growl that sent shivers down their spines. The growling grew louder, closer, until they could hear the creature breathing. Low, labored breaths that sent terror coursing through their veins. The friends' fear reached a fever pitch as they realized the beast was closing in on them. They could feel its presence, a malevolent force that seemed to sap their strength and will to fight. They ran, their hearts pounding in their chests, the sounds of the beast crashing through the woods behind them. The forest seemed to come alive, the trees and underbrush conspiring to trip them up and slow their escape. The friends stumbled and fell, their breaths coming in ragged gasps as they pushed themselves to keep moving, but one by one, they fell behind. The beast's growls grew louder, more insistent, as it closed in on its prey. The friends' terror turned to despair as they realized they were being hunted, and there was no escape. The forest, once a place of beauty and serenity, had become a nightmare from which there was no waking. Only Sarah made it out, gasping and sobbing as she stumbled into the open. She collapsed to the ground, her body trembling with exhaustion and fear. The memories of that night would haunt her for the rest of her life, a constant reminder of the horrors that lurked in the shadows of Hollow Creek. Her friends were never found. The search parties combed the forest for days, but there was no trace of Mike or Emily. The only evidence of their presence was the abandoned campsite, a silent testament to the terror they had faced. The locals whispered that the beast of Hollow Creek had claimed more victims, and the legend grew even darker. Have you ever found yourself hopelessly lost in the woods? The feeling of disorientation, the creeping sense of dread as the shadows lengthen and the familiar landmarks disappear. It's a primal fear, one that taps into our deepest instincts and reminds us of our vulnerability in the face of nature's power. Beware. Stay vigilant, because there are terrifying creatures in the woods that few have ever seen and lived to talk about. The forest is a place of mystery and danger, where the line between reality and legend blurs. So the next time you venture into the woods, remember the tale of the beast of Hollow Creek, and tread carefully, for you never know what might be lurking just beyond the trees.